up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back, Enrichers. Carter Wilcoxon coming to you from actually cool, wintry Prescott, Arizona. I'm actually up here visiting family and friends. Very excited about getting out of Phoenix, and it's kind of like Yellowstone almost out here. If anybody's out there watching Yellowstone, if you're not, a little plug, I guess. Watch Yellowstone. Check it out. Anyway, I am joined as normal by my esteemed, phenomenal co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James. Timmy, how are you, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm doing awesome. I can't even tell you. I have a new discovery. I have a new breakthrough for my health and happiness, and we'll see if it comes out today. If not, it's going to be coming out of my show pretty soon. So
yeah, we're talking a little bit pre-show about that. I can't wait to hear more about it. Maybe we'll get a chance. Maybe we can, have our guest today
or something. But it's like
totally.
It's so foundational to everybody's health, and I can't believe it took me 12 years to run across this. I mean, I've ran across it, but I didn't know it could be used for this certain ways of, application. And now that I do, I am using it. My mom's asking for it. And I'm very excited. So that's a little teaser. I might tell you about that a little bit later.
Nice. Awesome. Well, without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring in our guest. I'm very excited. I got a chance to meet Joe Allaria from Carson, Allaria, I believe RIA or Wealth Management. I'm not sure exactly. I just know Carson, Allaria. Joe is CFP and founder or co-founder. Let's go ahead and bring Joe in right now. Joe, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Carter. Glad to be here.
So, our enrichers, obviously, what we like to do is we like to give the backstory, right? I mean, a lot of us in the financial services business, when we were in school, typically, that's not something that you aspire to be in the financial services arena. And I know that you are, and I know you've got your own podcast. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about that either in this first segment or second segment. But Joe, share with the enrichers, our audience, and enrichers, thank you for joining us again for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. Let's talk a little bit about, some of your influences that you had that brought you into the industry, and talk a little bit about, how long that journey has been going on, and we really are excited to hear your backstory.
Yeah, it's pretty simple how I got into the industry. I dumbed my way into it, kind of happened by accident. But no, I started back in 2012, January of 2012. So I am coming up on 11 years here in a few weeks. I'll hit 11 years in the industry. But Carter, when I graduated college, I moved back to my hometown, and at that time, it was 2011, 2012. The job market was certainly not what it is today. And I was just simply going through my phone book at the time, thinking of everyone I could possibly call to ask for a job. And I came across an old football coach of mine who happened to be a financial advisor, have his own firm. And so I reached out to him, and wouldn't you know it, he had a spot available for me. And that's kind of where it all started. I was a marketing major and thought I was going to be going into marketing and helping his company in that capacity. And it just morphed into getting a life and health insurance license, getting securities licensed. And I've been doing this, doing it ever since.
Yeah. So you're in the Midwest there. What part of it's Illinois, I believe that you're in, but aren't you fairly close to the St. Louis area?
Yeah. Yep. So we're just across the river, essentially from St. Louis, about 20 minutes from downtown in the Edwardsville community. Some might know Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. There's also a Southern Illinois University Carbondale, that's where I went to school. It's about 2 hours south of where we are here. But yeah, sort of like a suburb of the St. Louis area.
Nice. And then, so are you born and raised there in the Midwest, and that is where you went to college, right?
Yeah, born and raised here in Edwardsville. So went off to Carbondale for college, came back here, been living here ever since 2011, and have, my wife is from a neighboring town, and we've got 2 young boys. So all the families around here. So we're pretty blessed to have a lot of family, a lot of friends around the area, and family very, very close by. So that's nice.
So whenever you were in grade school or high school, what was it that, was there some sort of a sign or something that intrigued you about, like, numbers? I mean, obviously financial services, or did you feel more like a relationship sort of driven, and that's why financial services felt like your cup of tea or the right thing for you to do whenever you met your mentor, I guess?
Well, I do remember my first interaction with finance was probably in 7th or 8th grade. We did a stock market game where we all picked a portfolio of stocks, tracked them throughout the semester, and my partner and I in the project picked a couple of good stocks. They did really well. So I remember being very intrigued about that. But like I said, honestly speaking about this, I didn't choose to go into finance, but it just kind of happened to me. And then once I got in it, really gravitated toward, number one, the aspect of, yes, there is that analytical component, that math component, which I liked, but also you're working with people, and it's just a challenge. I think that's probably what I like the most about it, is every day is different. Every situation is unique, and that provides a new challenge every day. It's never the same thing. And I like that. I kind of have a little bit of a competitive spirit. I've got an athletic background, and I like coming to work, having a new problem to solve. So it's been a very good fit, and for multiple reasons. And I'm, like I said, fortunate to have just kind of fell into it.
Tim, it's interesting. Doesn't it seem like there's probably 90% of our guests that come onto the show that they have this sports background, right, in the financial services arena?
Yeah, I remember actually one of the coaches that I hired, their company to coach me. He made a comment. He goes, well, I really like it that you're an athlete. And he goes, athletes seem to do better in our program. And I was doing mortgages back then, and they also coached real estate agents. So it's more independent people, problem solvers, right? Because it's different. Every client's different. Everything's different. But you also had to work on a team because you have a whole team of people. Or we were creating a team, and what we would do, we'd pull the CPAs and we'd pull the estate planning together, which is nice because nowadays, like, more and more advisors are actually getting their head wrapped around that, because that's a good way to separate yourself from the rest of everybody else, because they're not doing it. They're just trying to roll them into annuities or just get their money under management. And there's not really a whole thought process out. But it seems like the people that we've brought on are the best of the best, because they really actually care about the client, and they're looking at the long-term benefits for the client and for their term for succession, so that when the client passes away or whatever, the kids just don't take off, and then they just keep the client's money doing what the client initially wished and stuff like that. So yeah, I've noticed a huge advantage for people, and a lot of people in the industry, especially our guest interviewees that have been in sports in the background. So I think there's definitely something to that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's talk a little bit about your sports background. What was your sport of choice, I guess? And is that something that started in grade school and worked all the way through college, or was it multiple different sports?
I played a lot of sports growing up, but I played football in college at Southern Illinois Carbondale. So that's an FCS team, if you're familiar, if you follow college football. It's Division I.
Not BCS, right?
It's not. Well, FBS would be the bowl series. So, used to be the BCS, but so we don't have a bowl playoff. It's a bracket playoff system in the FCS, and a lot of people might be familiar with North Dakota State, South Dakota State. Those are the teams that are kind of dominating the FCS right now. Those were teams in our conference that we played against. And so it started when I was very young. Yes, it was nothing but athletics for essentially my entire life until I was done with college. So, but yeah, I played football, was a quarterback out of high school, switched over and played wide receiver for about 3 years, 2.5 years, something like that. Had some good teams and a lot of good memories from that.
So did you ever think to yourself when you were playing football that one day I'm going to aspire to be a financial advisor?
No, I didn't. Someone did come in and spoke to the team who was another advisor, and he came in, and I remember who it was to this day. He came in and spoke to our team about Roth IRAs and saving the Roth IRAs. I had no clue what he was talking about. And I don't think anybody did, but looking back, I'm like, that was pretty good advice, actually. What he's telling all of these college guys and to start saving into a Roth IRA as soon as you can. But of course, none of us had any money at the time. So
You were just saving beer money.
And I'm like, tell me the stock, man. Tell me the hot stock that I need to be.
Yeah.
That's what, a lot of novice investors are wanting to hear about. And he did not. I was frustrated when I left because I'm like, I thought he was going to tell me what to invest in, and he didn't tell me anything. Just Roth IRA business. But no, that was one of my early memories. Never thought about, again, I wasn't even planning to go into finance. I was an engineering major for a semester. Didn't love it, did okay in it, but didn't love it. And then switched over in the business world, did marketing. Liked it okay, but didn't really know what it was going to be all about. And I think I'm in a very good, much better position now, just given what like I said, that competitive nature. And football was a big part of that. People don't understand sometimes if you don't play a sport or you don't play it at the college level, how demanding it is. And that has it sort of rewires who you are in a way. Because once you go through it, it's hard to just turn that off. It becomes a little bit of who you are. And this career has allowed me to tap into that and to not hit a ceiling in whatever area I can pursue whatever area I want, whether it's growing the business, whether it's starting and growing a podcast, like you mentioned. I can just apply that discipline and the work ethic and just attack anything that I really want to, which is fun. It's challenging. It's fun. It's hard at times, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. So that entrepreneurial spirit was inside of you the whole time. And it was by happenstance, it sounds like, that you really found your path to where you're at today, then, is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I had in my mind, go get a safe job, that pays a salary, some benefits, and go that route. And then never would have thought I would have been in a position where, hey, I'm taking risk. I'm, buying out a business partner for a large amount of money, let's just say. And that's what has happened. So our company was founded by myself and two others. And then one of my partners is my older brother. Our third partner is Scott Carson, who, again, we founded the business with, started working together in 2014 with him at another firm. And so we started this together, and now it's just my brother and I. But there's a lot of big risky decisions that have been made to get from there to here. Never would have imagined that I'd be going down that path.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I know we're coming up on a break, but I want to get in just real quick because you are an entrepreneur, right? It's which means the phrase in our industry, right? You eat what you kill, and but so there is no paycheck, there is no guaranteed next dollar amount, there is no next client guaranteed, right? So talk a little bit about your wife, you're married. Did you guys meet in college, and how significant of a part that she plays in supporting you in that effort and her belief in you for what it is that you're doing? I'm sure there were some times that, maybe some pillow talk that you're like, I'm not sure if we're going to make it, but you did.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's been such a good support. We did meet in college. It was a good story. Met in class. And had to pursue her a little bit longer than I would have liked, but I finally convinced her after a while. But when when I got into the business, we were, we had been dating, engaged. We're not married yet, but going to be married shortly after that. Neither one of us had a lot of money. And so it wasn't that hard of a transition because we weren't making a lot at the time. And so it's the time to take a risk. And I know a lot of people do it different, where they have kids, they have a house. That'd be a whole nother situation. I didn't have those things. So it was an ideal time, but also my brother supported me, throughout that, and had encouraged me, and was a big part of convincing me to take that step, because he had kind of been doing it a little bit, whereas I started more in a salary, safer type of role. But no, my wife, Jacki's been absolutely instrumental, and she helps keep our lives together, because, I do put a lot of time into what we do here. So she's the, the quarterback at home and the weekend planner, and stays home with the kids 3 days a week. But she works for us actually a day and a half a week, which is awesome to have her around here and be in the office too. So she'll come in and help with some marketing and some bookkeeping and things like that. But she keeps it all together and allows me to just kind of dive into this and trying to grow our firm and make it better and make it improve. No question about that.
That's awesome, man. And I just want to commend you guys, because I really like it that these boutique type firms, family owned type businesses, this, as long as you've got your head screwed on straight, this is the place to go get your money invested, where you're actually going to get more care, right? Rather than going with an Edward Jones or a Dean Witter and that kind of stuff, and being just lost in the shovel and being basically a little cog in their wheel. Yeah. So I think that's really cool what you're doing. It's part of the fabric of what America is built on, small business owners. And I think it's really good for your clients. So we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to get into what Joe's doing over at his firm to help his clients save and protect their money. We'll be right back.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have two choices on this plan. Number one, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number two, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to Estate Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us, or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, we've got Joe Allaria, financial advisor from the Illinois area. So you're probably getting a little bit of snow over there right now, aren't you?
Not yet. It's on its way.
It's cold.
There's some snow coming later this week, but it's cold. And yeah, we'll get a little snow, probably get a little ice, get a little bit of everything this time of year.
It's coming.
A lot of gray.
Well, hey man, so you have this small boutique firm. You guys have been in business now for over a decade. Probably kind of figuring stuff out now, which is it takes some time to get it all figured out. So what's your niche over there? What do you guys specialize in? How are you helping people?
Yeah, a good question. So, I was sharing, I've been in the business just over 10 years. My brother's about the same. Scott Carson, who's still an advisor here for us, over 30 years. We founded this company just over 5 years ago, hit our 5-year anniversary, and the three of us have been working together for about 8 years. So if you can keep track of all that. But yeah, a lot of experience between the three of us. We focus mostly on people getting ready to retire, or maybe they're already retired. That's definitely our main niche area. But we also work with business owners and medical professionals. If you go to our website, those are the three different markets that we deal with. But by far, it is the people getting close to retirement, and we're helping them with all of the things that people have to deal with at that point in time. And it is not just kind of come in, we'll show you an investment statement, we'll talk about performance, show your allocation, and 30 minutes later, you're out the door. So we dig into Medicare, Social Security, taxes, coordinating with accountants, coordinating with attorneys, and really try to be the quarterback, not to use the football analogy, but really try to be the quarterback and the go-between between all those professionals. Because people, when they get to retirement, a lot of times they're the ones, everything goes through them. They talk to their advisor, then they talk to their accountant, then they talk to maybe an attorney, a benefits person at work, if they're still working, an insurance person, and they're just trying to go back and forth and make it all make sense.
Right.
And where we try to be different is we just say, you know what, we're just going to go into the middle of that circle with you and just do that for you. And it's really not that hard in our minds. It's really not that hard. It's just a lot of times it's just picking up the phone or shooting one more email, making one more call, one more email, instead of saying, hey, go ask your accountant this XYZ. I just call the accountant, and it just baffles us how little this is actually done for folks. And everyone's wanting to punt and put it on someone else to go do it. And it's just doing a little bit more, but it goes a long way.
Yeah. Communication.
Yeah.
That's and obviously that's, really key there. So when it comes to, you're really trying to be like in all sense of the word, the quarterback, right? I mean, because you've got, you got your offensive line, you got your running backs, you got your wide receivers, right? And then, of course, the entire team makes up your special teams. You got your defense, right? So you need all of those players, but you need one person that kind of sort of coordinate a lot of those things. And that sounds like a lot of what you guys are doing as that centerpiece. So you're the point person, so to speak,
Correct.
To align and coordinate a lot of the things that need to get done.
Correct. And it's nothing against those other professionals, but I've hardly ever seen it. And it's really for advisors as well. Like I said, I don't want to throw accountants under the bus or attorneys under the bus, but generally they're going to stay in their lane and just do accounting and just do estate planning, wills, trust, that sort of thing. But the people that we work with, they're not the ultra wealthy. They don't have an entire team that they've built to just monitor their finances. These are just regular people that have done a really good job saving, and they might have $1 million, $2 million across different accounts, and they've never done anything but just put money in a 401k and save. And so to try and take all of that and to ask them to manage and be the point person, they're not ready for that. They're not really even capable of doing that. Most of them, some maybe can, but even though the percentage of those people is pretty small, then you have to ask, was that something that you even want to do? For the people that can do it and want to do it, we don't work with them. If you can do it and you want to do it, by all means, do it yourself. You might, save yourself a little bit of money. You're going to spend more time. You might not do it as well, but if you can do it and you want to do it, great. But our clients either can't or they just don't want to. And I use the example of even cutting my grass, something really simple. I can do it. I don't want to do it. And I like to spend my free time on the weekends with my kids and just either, playing, hanging out with them or relaxing. There's not much relaxing nowadays, but, we were always going somewhere and doing something, but I'd rather be doing that than having to go outside and cut the grass and spend an hour or two doing that. So that's kind of like my retirement time right now. Is like when you retire, how do you want to spend that time? And very few people that we work with want to be worrying about, year-end tax strategies and, all that investment allocation for next year and retirement distributions and what's the best time to start taking Social Security. They don't want to think about that.
Yeah, they just want to know that they've got their guy or their gal that can handle whatever. And so it's interesting because and we'll talk about this, off the show or whatever, but I think there's a lot of things that we do, Tim. You've heard me speak about this however many times, right? The multidisciplinary team approach really has been the secret to our success in helping advisors, that weren't wise enough, like Joe and his brother, to get together. And it sounds like Scott, how you kind of sort of form some things. So, a lot of advisors don't recognize the opportunity if they can be the go-to solution for clients in that mass affluent demographic that's super underserved. And that's what it sounds like. You're really swimming in those waters in that mass affluent demographic and bringing probably a level that of service and solutions that, unbeknownst to them, even exist. So you look like, a godsend to them whenever you probably get introduced to them, or I'm not sure how you're getting in front of a lot of those clients. Maybe you can share a little bit of that too.
Yeah. Like most people, we get most clients through referrals. I'd love to say we get 100 inbound people, inbound contacts from our website. That just doesn't happen. A lot of our new prospective clients are getting referred by existing clients. And we have heard that when they come in, we go through the process, we've heard the comment, I've never seen anything like this before. And it's really not, there's nothing secret about it. I don't think, in my mind, like I said, it's just going a little bit further, doing a little bit more, and over time, just developing more skills. I mean, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, I didn't know as much as I know now about Social Security and Medicare, but over the years, you figure, hey, we're dealing with people in this demographic. We need to understand how these things work. And of course, you can outsource some of it, but who are you going to outsource Social Security things to? Yeah. There's no Social Security advisor out there. I mean, at least I've never seen one, right? There's usually always someone like us. Now, there are some Medicare agents that are great to connect with, and I encourage people to do that. But, taxes is another thing. You got to work with accountants, but there's a lot that we can learn that can help people. It's really not, there's nothing secret about it. There's no secret sauce. It's just digging in, learning, building your skills, building your knowledge. And then I'll put a big emphasis here, we do, on building a team internally and then working with people externally in a team fashion as well. But Scott Carson, I'll give him all the credit. He made a decision years ago. He didn't want a silo practice where it's like, I've got 5 advisors doing their own thing and, they each have an assistant or whatever. We don't have that here. It's one philosophy, one message, one way of doing things. And it's really that more of that ensemble approach where if a client works with me, works with Mark, works with Scott, they're getting the same experience, even down to the forms they see and the reports they see and the tools that we're using. It's all the same.
Awesome. So speaking of your clients, obviously, about 3 years ago, the whole world went virtual. Are the vast majority of your clients coming from the Illinois, Missouri area, or do you have some clients that you're working with in other parts of the country or maybe even the world?
Yeah, I don't know how many states we have right now our clients in, but most of them are from this area. A lot of clients that live elsewhere now maybe started living here, moved away in retirement or for some other reason for another job. So that would be primarily how we've started working with people in other states, but we do have them all over the country at this point. California, Washington, down to Florida. They're and everywhere in between, not every state, but a lot of them. So we're doing a lot more virtual. Like you said, 2020 helped out with that a ton. We were able and actually had Zoom before 2020. Not a lot of people were doing that or wanting that. And at this point, we've got people that are, I would say they're local. Maybe they're 30, 35 minutes from our office, and they still prefer to do a Zoom call. Some are even closer than that, and they just prefer to do a Zoom call. That's fine. No big deal. So
no commuting.
It helped on the other end, definitely, in going through that 2020 experience so that, clients now, logging into Zoom and getting a webcam and all that set up. I mean, the learning curve was amazing because they were doing that to talk to their grandkids and their friends and family a lot during 2020. So it's certainly helped. We do get clients, some clients that are located in different states that have never lived here and have the ability to serve them as well.
Well, hey Joe, I had a question for you. You have a podcast. Why don't you talk about that? How'd that get started, and how many episodes you've pumped out so far, and what's it all about?
Yeah, so that actually started during COVID as well, and so you recall what the market was like around that time. So I started doing webinars. It wasn't a podcast. It was just I would host webinars. I'd open them up to the public. I'd promote them on LinkedIn and Facebook and send out emails, and I'd have a decent attendance those first several weeks around COVID because people were very freaked out. So I'd have all sorts of people tuning in. And then once things settled down, I went from weekly back to monthly, and I kept doing that for a while. And then at the beginning of this year, I decided I'm going to stop the webinar platform and just move it to a podcast. So I've continued. I've got, I think, 13 episodes published, 15 recorded. So I have about 15 out by the end of the year, and going well. It's called the Retirement Power Hour on Apple, on Spotify, all that good stuff. But really just a continuation of what I was doing in those webinars. We try to educate people. I'm sort of the anti-media show where I'm trying to help consumers really understand what is best for them and what they need to hear. Whereas every other media source out there, or major media generally, is trying to instill fear in them, trying to, just get them to click on a headline and make them think they need to be doing things where maybe they don't. And so it's a huge challenge to fight that, but we are constantly encouraging our listeners and our clients to stop, getting their news from Yahoo and just listen to the podcast, because we're telling you everything that you need to know. Read our newsletter. We're telling you everything that you need to know. And it's a big battle for sure. But our clients have bought into it. I've received approximately 0 phone calls this year from panicked clients because of what the market was doing. And now we reached out to a lot and we met with a lot of people, but to say that I didn't have anybody call in because the market was down 800 points or 1,000 points in a panic, that's saying something. And I think it's partially because we work with great people, but they're really bought into the process that we have, building a plan first and educating and being proactive there and keeping the focus on the long term and not getting so excited and anxious when these things happen.
How often do you guys release your show?
It's like 1 to 2 times a month is what we're doing. And sometimes we'll have a guest on. Sometimes I'll do a solo show and we talk, the taglines that help people invest wiser and retire better. So the key, sometimes we'll talk financial stuff, and other times, Tim, I'll have someone like you on just to talk about health, nutrition, travel. That's on the list for next year, but things that retirees are interested in and things that they care about.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for sharing. We're at the break point right now, so I think we'll do that. We'll take a quick break, and when we get back, then Joe can ask me any question that he wants on health. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host, Carter Wilcoxon. Joe, we just had a couple episodes, went through your backstory. We just talked about in the first segment. The second segment went through kind of what separates you. It looks like you just go the extra mile. You make a few extra phone calls, and you're constantly studying and learning to improve your skills. And you and your brother, 20 years of doing that, and your other buddy over there, Scott, I believe, is 30 years. So combined, you've got 50 years of experience learning and growing. And to have no client call you when the market drops 800 points is kind of a testament to your communication skills and the buy-in for the program that you have over there. So I appreciate that. But now's the time where you get to flip the script and you can just ask me any question you have on health, whether it's public health, your health, a friend's health, or just a general health question. So what do you got for me?
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of big on nutrition, Tim. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I talk with clients quite a bit about this as well. Sometimes it comes up in life insurance applications and during that process. But in general, I mean, what are you telling folks about their nutrition when they're retired? Let me make it a little bit more specific around.
Well, typically, I'm telling them that it sucks and they need to change it. But
yeah. Well, let me just say this: my wife calls me the sugar police at home, and I tend to think, and I've read this about sugar, it's more addictive than cocaine.
Correct.
And I've read a lot of negative benefits, and I see patterns and trends, type 2 diabetes, especially in retirees and people around that age. And it, causes them to take medications and all sorts of negative effects. So what is your take on sugar? Am I being too extreme with this, or is it as serious of a deal as I'm thinking it is?
Well, it is a huge deal. And, I mean, you could probably do a documentary, death by sweetness or sweeteners or something. But the thing of it is like, it's kind of a hard subject to approach in a certain way, because you have to understand that, our grandmas have been handing us sugar in the form of cookies and stuff. And there's a lot of love around that in our moms. And it's part of society. Right. So, and then so it's like, there's a lot more going on there. There's some emotional and relationship ties and stuff like that that's ingrained into people. Plus, like you said, it's actually is more addictive than cocaine. So, I mean, if you look at the structure of sugar, like the actual molecule structure, it's almost identical to sugar, to cocaine, but more addictive. So, with that being said, if you just stop and pause about that for a moment and think, it's easier to get off of cocaine than sugar. Let's let that just sink in for a moment. Okay. Now, it takes awareness and it takes time for people to get this stuff to literally sink in and get it. But the other thing is that sugar, the cane sugar that you're speaking about, or these sugar beets, where most of it's grown now, is like the cane sugar is the most highly sprayed crop on the planet. More pesticides, fungicides, all this stuff is put on it. So you're putting a tremendous amount of, by consuming sugar, not only are you putting a tremendous amount of chemicals in your body, but when you purchase that sugar, your purchase dollars are creating more chemicals and pollution to go into the water, into the trees, and back into you and the clouds and everything, the birds, because you're perpetuating that with your dollars. So you're actually voting with your dollars. And then when you do consume it, you're consuming way too much. Back in feudal times in the 1500s, sugar was like, you couldn't even get your hands on it. It was hard. It was under lock and key and only brought out, and kings and queens had it, and it was brought out during birthdays and holidays and parties. But now everybody can get it. And there's this obesity epidemic. Over 80% of us are weight, or we're sick. I mean, that's the reality. Is if you're overweight, you're not just overweight, you're sick. And I was talking to a guy about this yesterday, and I put it in his terms because he was an elk hunter, because I'm over here in Eastern Oregon. And he's like, "Oh, you're into health." He was giving me a bid for doing some concrete work. Totally cool guy. We connected. His sons knew my friend. They wrestled. It was just, it's a small community. We all figure out we know each other. And he's like, "Yeah, I just want to lose some weight." And he goes, "What do I do for that?" And I said, "Well, the first thing you have to understand, man, is that you don't need to just lose some weight. You need to stop being sick, because if you're overweight, you're sick." And I just kind of let it hang there for a little bit. And he was like, "Whoa. What are you talking?" He goes, "No, I just need to lose some weight." And I'm like, "No, dude." I said, "Think about it." So I put it in terms he could understand. A herd of elk goes by in front of you, and all of a sudden, trailing in the back is a skinny, weak, limping elk. Are you going to shoot that elk? Well, maybe just to put it out of its misery because you're a caring individual. But would you take it home and eat it? No, it's sick. Something's wrong with it. It's probably got some weird disease or something. Okay, right. Same scenario. Herd of elk goes by, and then there's one in the back, and that elk is completely overweight, and it's limp, and it don't look that good. You going to shoot that elk and eat it? No, why not? Because he's like, well, it's sick. Something's wrong with it. So that's where you're at, and you have to face that, and you have to understand that if you're overweight in today's society, you're sick, whether if it's self-inflicted or you just didn't know because society's doing it all, and you're going down to the grocery store and you're purchasing processed foods. So what they're doing is they're taking like sugar cane, which you could crack open in nature if it wasn't sprayed, and chew on it, and you could get some sweetness out of that. But when you put it into a white powder, it's completely concentrated. You basically made it into a version of cocaine, basically. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Now there's super sweeteners. Now there's, before we get there, then they do beets as well. And these beets are genetically modified. So that means they mess around with them on the genetic level in a laboratory so they can spray more crap on them, more toxins, and it won't kill that plant because it's mixed into the plant. It's like Roundup Ready type stuff. And glyphosate is an example, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, which, by the way, is like, it still blows my mind that there's today commercials where attorney firms are paying thousands of dollars running ads saying if you've been exposed to glyphosate, the main ingredient Roundup, you could be entitled to compensation. Joe Blow, the maintenance groundskeeper down here, just won I think $178 million settlement for his lymphoma cancer. Yet you can still go down to your home and garden center and purchase today and kill yourself and kill your kids and your wife. And by spraying it on your lawn and killing dandelions that you think is a weed that's a top 10 herb in Chinese herbology that would actually heal you. It's a bitter. So our society's thinking is twisted. We don't understand like what's really going on. And I think that's what you were talking about your podcast. You want to give people the true dope on what's really going on out there. Now, then they get into these other ones like high fructose corn syrup and corn syrup. These are also genetically modified corns. And like the sugar beets, when you consume them, they're actually, instead of producing glutathione naturally, they switch over and they start producing formaldehyde, which is like embalming fluid. And this is why a lot of morticians are saying that the older people now that are dying, that were on the highly processed diets and stuff like that, they're already kind of embalmed, right? So they don't have to embalm them that much. They've already kind of been doing it for decades, right? So weird stuff is going into the foods. And this is why we got to get back to nature, back to shopping local, back to heirloom. And if you're going to use a sweetener, natural sweeteners, I would recommend dates or date sugar or molasses if you wanted to do the sugar. But there's other stuff out there now like monk fruit and stevias, but you have to be careful because the landscape is that there's landmines. So stevia, as an example, is a leaf, and it's a green leaf in nature. But if you are buying stevia sugar packets and it's white, kind of like that white cocaine and that white sugar and that white flour, like that stuff, they have processed that with chemicals because it's supposed to be green. It was a green leaf. If they did it properly, they would take that green leaf, dehydrate it under 115, 110 degrees, keep the enzymes active, keep it in its whole food form, and gently grind it into a fine powder. And you could use that for your baking needs and that kind of stuff, sweeteners in your drinks and stuff like that. And then there's liquid stevias, and I've only found one so far that hasn't been processed with chemicals, and it's by a company called Stevita. It's a Stevita brand stevia. It's a liquid clear one that I use. And 1 drop of that is equivalent to a teaspoon of sugar. So, sugar is a big problem, and it hides in other things too, like maple syrup is 65% sugar. Getting maple water out of a tree, that's natural, but it's condensed down. They take 50 gallons of maple water to make, and they boil it off, and they make 1 gallon of maple syrup. You don't find that stuff in nature. The only time you find concentrated sugar in nature is typically like honey, where the bees concentrated it. But good luck getting your hands on that in nature without the smoke and all this. You know, you're going to get stung.
Right.
So you're probably not going to do that all the time. And then bears will do it. But, there's just, it's not natural to bring in that much concentrated sweeteners into the body, even though you're genetically programmed to look for it, fats and salts and sugars in nature, because it's not really out there in abundance. And then the other place you can find it is fruits. Berries, not so much. But the fruits, the problem with the fruits is if you do a deep dive on it like I have, you're going to find out that almost all the fruits, most of them don't even exist in nature. They've been hybrid and created. They're they're hybrid. And then the other thing is they've been hybrid to be 10 up to 50 times sweeter than their origins that nature produced. Why? because it sells. If you're driving by a road and you see sour apples, you're going to pull in, oh, yeah, let's have some sour apples tonight. We'll have a sour apple pie. No, it's like sweet apples, and you pull in, or sweet melons, sweet oranges, and you pull in there because we're all food addicts at some level, and we've been brought up to this stuff, and we just don't know about it. There's no education on this stuff at a deep level, and it takes shows like this for people. There's probably some people going to listen to this and go, oh shit, I didn't know that. Now, whether they change or not, that's another story.
It's hard because it's everywhere. It's in everything that we eat, and you have to be super intentional about not putting it in your body, because it's like, well, I'm not eating candy. I'm eating fill in the blank, but it's all got sugar in it. But,
well, you probably get this. There's other forms of it too, like consuming alcohol. When I look at alcohol, I don't look at it as alcohol. I look at it as acid, because it turns into sugar, and sugar's acid. Sugar's acid. It's acid. Acid in the body doesn't work that well. Something else that's very familiar for a lot of people is pastas. Wheat, especially. Nobody should be even consuming any wheat anymore that's been touched by man, because it's destroying you. Absolutely destroying your body, your gut. It's past the gluten. It's these gliadin proteins. I had Dr. William Davis on my show. He has a book called The Wheat Belly. He talks all about this stuff. Even I wasn't even eating wheat at that time, but when I got done listening to that episode, I'm staying even farther away from it. Like, it's bad. Like, if you eat wheat that's been genetically modified, grown at 18 inches tall instead of 4.5 foot like it does in nature, you're basically suicidal. If you have this information, you're going to eat that crap. I mean, that's the level of where we're at today. People need to be slapped around a little bit, because I needed to be woke up. I had no idea how bad this stuff was, and it is really bad. So when you eat pasta, and here's another one, white rice and brown rice. When you put that stuff in your mouth, it converts right into sugar in your mouth, and that's why we like it so much. So we have to, I thought rice was healthy. Well, yeah, if it's 100% wild rice and has the germ, which is the outer layer attached to it where 90% of the nutrition is, but white rice and brown rice have it stripped off. And what you're left with is pretty much a starchy carbohydrate, right? That's it. Yeah. So, but it tastes good and I like it. Well, that's okay. I mean, but you can end up with Alzheimer's and dementia when you get older, and you can have arthritis and Hashimoto's. You can have all these other health issues because the sugar is not sugar. It's acid. It's going to feed all disease. That's just where we're at today.
Yeah.
So eat berries.
Motivated me to go eat better.
So, yeah. But here's the thing. If you are exercising and you're really moving, like you're really exercising, you're running marathons, triathletes, you're out fit, hiking, doing that stuff, yeah, you can have a little bit of sugar and you'll burn that off, right? Yeah. It's not something you can't do it. You want to be able to enjoy your fruits here and there, but it's if you're just doing it on the daily all the time, you're putting sugar in this and sugar in your matchas and sugar in your coffee, and you have pies all the time and cakes and ice creams and candies, and you're having noodles, pastas and stuff like this, and you're drinking alcohol. It's sugar, and you're gonna wear your body out. Your cells are gonna go and that's why like 80 million people have diabetes.
Yeah, I think about it for my kids and just more than myself too. But getting kids to eat healthy is a challenge too. But I'm like, we gotta just be conscious of it, in some degree, because it's just, especially for kids' food, it's just even more packed with sugar. It's almost criminal.
It really is. And let me put this into perspective, because I had a doctor put it in perspective for me 12 years ago. He said, Tim, because I said, how much sugar should we have? He said, there's enough sugar in lettuce for the human body. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know lettuce had sugar. It's like, you live and you learn, right?
There was a little piece of candy, like a little cotton candy thing that someone gave one of my kids, and looked at the label. There's 56 grams of sugar in it. And like I said, I mean, that should be illegal, but it was totally designed for kids too. I don't drink soda. I haven't had a soda in probably a decade. And I'm the one at the family parties, guilting everyone else when they're drinking soda. It's one of the worst things, even if it's a diet soda. There's just all that.
That's
sugar.
Even worse. People just don't have the education. Like, Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. Okay. Coca-Cola, there was cocaine. Well, they finally, had to take that out of there. But the new cocaine is the sugar, and then the high fructose corn syrups and the super sweeteners, and the sucralose and all these cancer-causing agents that they're putting in drinks. It's like, yeah, give me a double Whopper cheeseburger and fries and a Diet Coke.
Right.
Oh, and would you like to supersize that? Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like, and there's a lot of people's food program today, and they're wondering why. Well, I drink Diet Coke. Well, yeah, that's like the new crack. Like, I have a friend of mine who literally, he's like, I am addicted to Diet Pepsi. I can't stop. Yeah. I cannot stop. I cannot. Because if he does stop, massive headaches and withdrawals start happening. Drug addict. That's what he's done. And that's legal in the stores for our kids and for people. But, you know, I don't know. I guess it's the way it is. So this is where the working class needs to take responsibility for our own health, become our own doctor, learn how to self-heal. Just stop buying this crap. That's what it boils down to. And take a stand and just like never waver. It's like, nope, not doing it. Like,
not to be the sugar police on it, but that's the battle I kind of fight here and there. And it's all around, like I said. So,
well, you can just tell them, hey, you can cut this little snippet out of the episode and say, you think I'm hard on you? Watch this.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
This guy's going to light your ass up.
I'm going to share, definitely going to share because, you shared a lot of facts that I haven't talked about. I just know enough to try to limit it. You know, that's what I've tried to do.
Well, and the reason why, you know, I grew up Eastern Oregon redneck. So sometimes people, you got to be a little tough on them so they get it, because otherwise they're just kind of drifting along, especially the A types, the alphas. They're like, nobody listens to them until they, hey, SOB. And then they're like, oh, well, then they start paying attention to you. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, you're kind of like me. And then, okay, I'll listen for a second, you know?
Right.
There's a lot of, I had a guy, I haven't done it for hardly ever, but I had to fire him. It was a client. He wasn't listening. And he had this big practice, and he had all these clients, and he was the top dog, and it basically ran the family and everything, but he's 300 and some pounds. Yeah. And I'm like, look, dude, here's the deal. And until you're fitter than me, I talk, you do the walking. Like, cause I'm actually living the lifestyle. Like, you need to listen. Like, and you're not listening. And if you don't listen, and I had to let him go. Cause I'm just like, I can't have failures attached to my name when I'm coaching somebody. Yeah. You know, they have to take action. So unfortunately, there's a lot of emotional ties to it. There's physical ties, and the way the sugar hits the receptors and the acid and the addiction. It's a deep deal, dude. It's a deep deal. In fact, I have a lady, she told me, she's like, I can't stop making pies and stuff. It's the only way I can get my kids to come over and see me. So she's not going to stop. There's no way she's going to stop, because she doesn't even care. She's like, she wants to see her children. She's afraid that if she stops making yummy food, that they will have no reason to come see mom. And I'm like, well, that's kind of sad. Oh yeah. But maybe true. Yeah. I don't know. Great question, dude, on the sugar.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
All right, Carter. I think that's about it, man.
Yeah, no, that was great stuff. Unless there's anything else that Joe really was pressing and wanted to get in on this recording and ask.
No, I appreciate you guys having me on, and that's a good reminder for me, Tim. Appreciate that. But no, I know you guys have a lot of advisors that listen, so hopefully there was something in there that helped them. Whenever I was getting started in the business, like I said, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I always wonder how do I get to where some of these more senior advisors got to, and that was what I just try to share today. Is like, I don't think there's any secret sauce to it other than just work and give it time and sharpen your sword and do the right thing and do it a bunch of times, and it'll happen.
Yeah. No,
that's
Thanks for
awesome.
Coming
on, brother. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Enrichers, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. And to be able to see all of our other phenomenal guests like Joe Allaria of Carson Allaria Financial Services. By the way, what CarsonAllaria.com, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, CarsonAllaria.com. Of course, in the show notes, we'll make sure that your website's in there so people can get to it.
And the podcast is retirementpowerhourpodcast.com if you want to check out the podcast as well.
Awesome. Fantastic. So, hey, Enrichers, we really do, as always, appreciate the time that you spend listening to all of our great guests. And to be able to see all of our previous shows and to see all of our other guests, you can go to our website at www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com and make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, wherever you get it, even Podbean. So for my fantastic co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James, here on Christmas week of this episode, we want to thank you for spending this time with us. Joe, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your backstory, and learning a little bit. Maybe we were able to impart some wisdom onto you as well as you start the new year coming up here real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So until next time, Enrichers, we will see you on the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.